And joining me is the Director of Australian Freight and Trade Alliance, Paul Zalai. Good to talk to you again. Paul, we just heard those comments from Tony Burke there. But is it right in saying that DP World is not like every other business in Australia? Because if they shut down, it affects every other business in Australia and how they operate too.
Yeah, thanks, Kenny. Yeah, you're spot on. It does have flow-on effects. They're basically the gateway to Australia. Our containerised trade is dependent on the Stevedores being open for business. 40% of our trade comes through DP World, even with the other stevedores taking on some of the workload, because DP World reluctantly are subcontracting some of their work to their competitors, there's only so much they can take on as well. They're just not geared up to take on that extra volume at such short notice. So it is having devastating impacts. The comments there from the minister were concerning, but not surprising. It's a consistent message that the government has made for some time. And also the Fair Work Commission themselves, when they had an opportunity to look at an application from DP World last year for a cooling off period, they declined it. They declined that 90-day cooling off period, saying, no, you need to go back and negotiate. So, who's right, who's wrong, I don't know, but the message has been consistent, and I think the ball's really in the court now of DP World to come back to the table and negotiate with the union.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're not getting any help from the government, are they? So the big question now is, should DP World agree to what the union wants? And I guess the second part to that question is, even if they do, does that end the industrial action?
Oh, look, you would imagine if they caved into the demands, then we're back in business. Whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know. We've got the other stevedores will be going through a similar process in about 18 months' time. So they will be watching with keen interest. And look, hindsight's a wonderful thing. If DP will end up caving into the demands, that they probably should have done so a few months ago. But, is that the right way to do business? Should an employer just cave into demands? But again, the detail of the dispute, who's right, who's wrong, I'll leave that for other commentators. But the bottom line is, as you said at the very beginning, Kenny, it's the trade sector that's suffering. It's Australian importers, exporters, logistics providers. It's having crippling effects. There is no denying that.
Today, the Maritime Union's industrial action will ramp up to include not allowing any trucks or trains into the DP World terminals in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane and Fremantle to deliver or remove containers. They're also now threatening to begin periodic 8-hour ship delays from Monday. What sort of impacts are we going to see from these new threats?
Yeah, it's just compounding. So those bans that you're talking about are not too dissimilar to what's been in place since about September, October last year. It's just the compounding effect of these bans that is having the impact. So again, as I said, whether the minister is, right or wrong, or whether the DP World should have been negotiating rather than doing a media campaign, as the minister said, the compounding impacts of these delays are really hitting home for our exporters. With the rail, they need the predictability. They need that access to the wharf. Without it, they're just no chance. And then our shipping lines, servicing Australia, they're increasingly blanking or cancelling voyages. When they do come to Australia, quite often they're bypassing the most congested ports and then discharging cargo there, and that leaves our exporters, helpless to get to market. So. Yeah, it is quite incredible that we're in this situation.
Okay, Paul Zalai, thank you. We'll talk to you again soon.